All right, we're back with another podcast, fresh off the Ryder Cup, which finished this morning. Now, Jay, you're not a big golf watcher, but over the weekend you told me you were quite interested in watching the Ryder Cup, and I am guessing you probably watched a little bit this morning. So, what is it about the Ryder Cup that got you invested this week?
I love the match. I do love the match play. I love the different format. And then I wonder if that's what Live Golf were trying to do. You know, like trying to create a team-based thing that oh, hell. I'm not sure about this setup, Scotty. I wonder if that's what Live Golf were trying to do. A team-based format that, like you could really get stuck in and get behind your team and get passionate and because I'm not European and I'm not American, but I was massively supporting the Europeans. I think the different format, I think match play is cool. I think seeing those guys as mates rather than against each other is cool. And the golf was unbelievable, especially over the weekend in the four ball and the foursomes. And then I think just the tension and this morning. You obviously watched it? You are a bit of a golf watcher.
Yeah, I did watch a little bit of it. I watched it on delay, and I got a message. I was on about a 2-hour delay, and I got a message saying, surely the Europeans can't blow this. So I said, I'm on a delay. Don't tell me the result. And then I just put my phone on airplane mode for 2 hours while I watched it. So I couldn't check any social media or anything and ruin it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. There was one moment when, I can't remember who it was, went up and hugged Bryson, and it was a non-live player, went up and hugged Bryson. It's like, man, that's so cool to see the camaraderie in the team, because you've seen all the bickering over the last few years between the PGA Tour and Live and the people that have left, and now they're on the same team, and it's so cool to see them as teammates and how they all support Rahm and Tyrrell Hatton and the European side. So yeah, I love that team stuff too.
Yeah, do you reckon there's a place for it? I mean, it's every 2 years. The President's Cup doesn't hold, I don't think, and obviously we're from that region of the internationals, but it doesn't yet hold that same, I guess because international teams never won, but it doesn't quite hold that same intrigue or something about it. But do you think that's where Liv were trying to get to, or are trying to get to?
I think so. I have to imagine that. The way they've got the team format, and even the way that John Rahm and Tyrrell Hatton get on, they're on the same Live team, and the way they've talked about sort of getting to know each other and being really good mates. I think that Liv was trying to go for something like that, and they've got their pylon when they have their coverage, and they always show the team scores as well. So I have to imagine they were going for something like that. And with the international team, they really need to win one of them to probably push that President's Cup along, because it would be cool to eventually get somewhere like that. And maybe it's a little bit harder because it's kind of the rest of the world. Europe's a little bit closer together, and they all kind of they're not too far apart from each other. Whereas the rest of the world, you've got South Africans and the Kiwis and the Canadians and the Koreans, Japanese. It's quite
the Aussies as well.
And
Probably
the
not to
Aussies as
mention the
well.
Australians, yeah.
It feels like a wider range of cultures than you kind of get with the Europeans.
Yeah, I thought the other thing that was cool. Sorry.
Go ahead. What was cool?
Well, at the end, they're interviewing Rory, and he's crying, and Shane Lowry's crying, and I think even Scotty Scheffler might have shed a tear. And they can't speak, and you think, and everyone always talks about the money they make, and they all play for money, but there's no money in this. But it's the biggest. They don't even cry when they win major championships. So that must be pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool here. Cool to hear Shane Lowry in his interview says, I've been really fortunate to do some cool things in my career, but the Ryder Cup holds something special. And he says, even though I've won the Open Championship in Ireland in front of the home crowd, this is still the coolest thing I've ever done.
Yeah. And the other thing that was wicked, I think, from a mindset point of view, is him and Tyrrell Hatton, I think it was Tyrrell Hatton, both sort of said, that was the worst 2 hours of my life, that back nine, the hardest 2 hours of my life. But then they love it. So that, I think from a mindset point of view, just that desire to step into that place of this is horrible, but I'm here and I wouldn't change it for anything. Like that's a bit of conflict or something, a bit of dissonance there to go, why, what's happening there? That was the hardest 2 hours of my life, but how amazing it is. I mean, Lowry's reaction looked like he didn't know what to do with his body when he was jumping around on the ground.
He didn't know what to do. He was like a little kid. Like he was running around, didn't know where his limbs were. He didn't know where to run, who to look at. Yeah, it was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that imagine. I reckon it's a better. Well, I've never been to Ryder Cup, so this is probably a dumb thing to say, but I was talking with a couple of mates this morning, saying, I wonder if it's better on TV because you can actually. The coverage is amazing, right? Like the tracking, the ball tracking, you get a better sense of where the flags are. And if you're there, you're probably 5 rows deep, and potentially in amongst. That was the only probably disappointing thing is you hear about the crowd, and some of the abuse and stuff that got thrown. Like that feels like a shame, to me at least.
Yeah, I've actually got that in my notes to talk about how that kind of started, and they hired people to start chants, and maybe they weren't doing the one swearing at Rory, maybe they weren't starting there, maybe that was crowd led, but yeah, it is a shame because, like Rory said in his interview afterwards, why can't you just support the player? He said, playing against Scotty, he hardly heard any cheers for Scotty, but he heard a lot of cheers against himself.
Yeah.
Like, as a supporter, wouldn't you want to go and cheer for your team rather than go and to cheer against the other team?
Yeah. But I always reckon it backfired as well. Like the way that it racked up the Europeans, I reckon, on those first couple of days. And it probably, potentially, it may have embarrassed some of the American players. Like, I don't know, I think about if I was playing at home and people were booing my opponents, I'd feel a bit stink about that, and I'd feel a bit conscious about it. So I don't know. Maybe did it have the negative effect? Was it a good thing? Or I think it probably fired up some of those European players.
Yeah, I actually think it fired them up a little bit. I was really impressed with JT. Actually, he was quietening the crowd down a couple of times and asking them to be quiet. He looked like he was quite embarrassed.
That's who I thought of
the
as
Europeans.
well.
Yeah. So that was cool to see.
Yeah.
Sort of the humanity there rather than kind of, it would be easier just to hide and go, oh, hey, that's not me. But it was nice for him to step up and try and do something little about it.
Yeah. Who did Lowry play today? Did he play Henley?
Yeah, Henley left the putt short on the same line that Lowry had, on the last, and it just, like, he's a pretty good putter, and it was all set up for him to hold that and keep the thing going.
And Højgaard played Ben Griffin, eh? Is that right?
I think so, yeah. Ben Griffin won in the end, yeah, I think so, yeah.
Because Henley and Lowry today were strokes gained 3.92 and 3.71 respectively. So they were the two best players, strokes gained, going head to head. And the two worst players...
So, hold on, just in today's round?
Just today.
Just
today. And then Højgaard and Griffin were the two worst players strokes gained, and Griffin won up. It makes you think. It's amazing. I look through some of the data, and it like you rise to your level or you fall to the like. There must. It's weird, isn't it? How close the guy, especially with so many tied matches and one up matches. Well, I guess that makes sense because the strokes gained is going to be the same. But no one really smashed anyone today. I mean, Rahm lost maybe, what did he lose? 3 and 2? 4 and... Xander won 4 and 3 against Rahm,
They were kind of the only two one-sided ones. Fitzpatrick was 5 up through 7 against Bryson, but ended up getting a half at the end.
Yeah. I saw Bryson. I reckon he'd be a wicked team captain. And I don't know. I'm not a golf watcher, and I'm not a YouTube watcher either, so I don't really follow Bryson, but I heard he's had a massive turnaround in popularity. But whether you're a Bryson fan or not, I think because of his data analytics and his math sort of brain, I reckon he would be a wicked team captain. Because I read something that there's 132 possible combinations to put out in the foursomes and four ball based on everyone playing with everybody. There's
Yeah.
12 in a team and 11 of them. The US twice, and from a data analytics point of view, they ranked like the best pairings in each team, and Europeans basically did all their pairings off data analytics. Twice the American team put out the 132nd ranked team from data analytics.
Oh, wow.
And both of them.
The worst.
Yeah, you put the worst possible pairing you could from a maths point of view. And I know that maths isn't everything, and there's variance and all that stuff. But that's interesting, to go twice they put out the very worst possible combination. And obviously, well, not obviously, but they also lost both of those matches. Whereas and that's why I reckon Bryson, I'm not sure that he would probably make that mistake. I think it was Harris English and Colin Morikawa, and they were up against.
I was going to guess if it was that pairing, yeah.
Yeah, 132 out of 132.
On the Harris English, they talked about. I saw a video before the Ryder Cup, and it was about the name they put in the envelope at the start, and quite often it's never revealed.
Yeah, they burn it.
This Ryder Cup it was, yeah, and it's like they never know. What do you think about that? Obviously, both teams agree that it's going to be shared. It's going to be a half match.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Do you think that's the right way to do that? I think it should be a substitute.
Well, it's hard because
you do it differently.
It's hard because you've got all 14 players playing.
Yeah.
So that makes it a little bit hard. Is it 14?
Yeah. Well, imagine if it was like one of the captains or vice captains. So it was Keegan Bradley versus Alex Noren or something like that.
Yeah.
For the substitutes.
Yeah, that'd be quite cool. I quite like it because it's quite quirky. I think it certainly. Well, I mean, the US could look at it and go, "Well, that sucks. That cost us a point." But you never know. I guess if he was that injured, he couldn't have played and couldn't have won. So.
And ultimately, both teams agreed that was what they would do. So it wasn't. It didn't feel like the Europeans were trying to game the system and.
And I don't think you would. Like, if you're a player, you would be. I mean, Hovland must have been gutted to miss that. And poor Harris English now, like everyone knows he was in the envelope. That would be a bit stink. But it's a quirky rule, and I quite like quirky rules, I think. I feel like you're going to throw something back at me here.
Actually.
But, hey?
Yeah, no, I can see that you would quite like a quirky rule.
Yeah, and I don't imagine they've used it as a tool because it would just be gutted to not play amongst it. Like those guys said, that was the hardest 2 hours of their life, but also they loved every minute of it. So.
And also, they only needed 2.5 points. So why would you use it then? Maybe if it was a bit closer, you're like, oh, I don't know if we can win this one. We might use it, but 2.5 points away, you probably didn't think it was going to get that close. You wouldn't want to look a bit stupid going, oh yeah, we use that to get half a point closer.
I know that Rory wears a Whoop band, and he's a massive Whoop advocate. And I listened to a podcast on the Whoop podcast, which is awesome with him. It'd be fascinating, I reckon, to see, because the emotional toll, like he looked a bit like a dead man walking today.
I just wrote this down when you talked about Larry and Hatton saying the hardest. I wrote down like, what would the Whoop data say? Well, I'd love to see the stress the body went through. Yeah,
it would be fascinating, because I mean, what do they play? I guess they play 36 holes, but it's foursomes and four ball, so, and it's match play. But yeah, I think it'd be fascinating to see Rory's data, because I reckon he would have been cranked way up in strain. And I wonder what his recovery stuff was like. Although I'm sure they have the best people and the best services and the best of everything to manage that stuff. But it would be cool.
Yeah, the foursomes is interesting because you're only hitting half the shots, but I feel like you're under twice the amount of stress, so it probably balances it out.
Yeah, I mean, even as club golfers, you know that, when you've got a 3-footer, even if it's a 4-ball or foursomes. But when it's you and your mate, you're not just missing for you, you're missing for him as well. that's where it really sucks. Oh, sorry, mate.
Actually, in the press conference afterwards, they asked Rory and they said, was it nice to give it back to the crowd and then stiff it to 2 feet?
Yeah.
And he said, effing-lutely. And then Tommy Fleetwood chirped up from the background and said, he didn't stiff it. It was 2 feet and I had to putt it.
Yeah. Well, actually, Tommy Fleetwood was strokes. He was the top strokes gained for the week.
Yeah, he almost went 5-0.
Yeah. Um, plus 6.24 strokes gained, and that's with minus 0.27 putting.
Holy.
Strokes gained approach, he was almost 2 shots better than anyone else. The next player, he was 5.64, and Cameron Young was 3.84. So he's almost 2 shots better per round in approach play than anyone else.
Wow.
Unreal, eh? But yeah, not.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is unreal, especially when you've got Scotty Scheffler, the best of the last almost 20 years now in strokes
Yeah.
gained approach.
Yeah. And he was still pretty good.
Yeah, what was Scotty's data like? Because he almost went 0-5, almost did the opposite to.
Yeah, and that was interesting. Like when you go, I think it was on Saturday. I had a look. Saturday four ball. He lost the Saturday four ball, eh?
Yeah, he was 0-4 going to the last day.
Yeah. He was. What was he that day? Oh, he was like 6 strokes gained that on the Saturday four balls. He was. Whoops.
He was
Yes.
still middle of the pack. It wasn't like he was last or.
Well, more the top of the pack, like, because there's 20. No, what is? Yeah, 24 players.
16 play.
Oh yeah, 4 matches each. Yeah, yeah, fair call, middle of the pack. So yeah, he's pretty much above average most of them, except for the Friday morning, and then I think today he might have been a bit average. He was a bit average today. Him and Rory, but they cop a bit of a hard time, eh? But that's where that pairing seems bloody interesting, and the strategies behind how they did that. It'd be fascinating to get some inside word on that.
Yeah, I was surprised, and I haven't looked at any of the strategy or sort of the best teams. I was surprised that Scotty and Bryson played together in one of the four balls. I wondered if they tried to sort of get Bryson to amp him up and maybe feed off him. I thought there was an interesting pairing just with the two characters.
Yeah, it sounded a bit like that, eh? Like it was trying to get him to carry along. I heard an interesting comment which I hadn't thought about. Keegan Bradley said they asked him about a review, which is a tough question on the 18th hole, but and he said he might have set the course up a bit differently. So obviously the home team have the option to set the course up how they want to, which I thought was interesting. And it was low rough and it was soft greens, and the Americans probably thought for their sort of bomb and gouge type play that was an advantage compared to the Europeans, but obviously I don't think it worked as well.
Yes, another note that I've got. First I didn't realise that they had the option to set it up, but I guess it makes sense. I mean, knowing cricket pretty well, the home team are going to do what suits their bowlers or their batters and try and set it up for that. So I guess it makes sense. Keegan did say they didn't expect the greens to be that soft.
Right.
And thought it would play firmer and faster. So that was obviously a bit of a surprise. But I would love to know what they did, what they changed, or what they thought was going to benefit them. And maybe it was the shorter rough and that. But I was surprised that they did get to set the course up or have as much say in that. But then thinking back, I remember they did talk about that in Italy at the last one. They talked about they used data to favour their players. It'd be interesting to see where they were stronger and what they did to change it, how it would normally be set up.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see if Luke Donald stays on, as captain.
It will be, and And also maybe a little surprising, but what about Keegan? Because I've never been a Keegan Bradley fan, and when they selected him, I was a bit surprised. But the more I thought about it, the more it makes sense. He's like the true blue American. He's a little bit like a Patrick Reed in a way for me, like just wears his heart on his sleeve, like pure American guy in it. And although they didn't do too well, he looked like he did a good job as captain, apart from like the pairings in the course setup. But apart from that, the final stuff, like leading up, it looked like he was doing a really good job, and everyone had the respect of him. So, I mean, after the first 2 days, the USGA or the PGA of America probably threw his name out for ever doing it again. But do you think he gets another opportunity?
Yeah, good question because the players seem to love him, eh? Like they all spoke really highly of him, which was pretty cool. Um, and I guess you've got, it's almost, do you know what I was thinking today? It was a little bit like the 2011 Rugby World Cup final, when the All Blacks beat France and you hate every minute of it, but the players talk about loving that. 8-7 victory that everyone thought was going to be a walk-in. But then, like, think about all the lessons that Keegan's learnt, I assume,
Yeah.
that you can take into the next one, whereas if you bring someone new in, you potentially make the same mistakes, although I'm sure they hand over some pretty good data. Although maybe they don't.
Or do they go to Tiger next?
Yeah. It's a good question. He's an obvious one, eh? But he captained the President's Cup. Was it you telling me that?
That wasn't the time. Yeah.
Someone told me that. But then he played himself, which is, I guess he was number 4 in the world at the time, but
That's right.
in Melbourne. But I guess if you're Tiger Woods, you do that.
I'm interested in. It's hard. Is it just a little bit emotional? I haven't looked at the stats, but the amount of shots that hit the pin, or they just feel like they hit it so close, and it's a small field, so it's not like we're just watching the leaders.
Yeah.
The amount of shots that go close, and then the first guy hits it close, and the second guy does the same thing and answers there. Like, I have to imagine they're still using Decade or whatever their sort of course strategy system is. There seems to be a lot of shots that go close. Like, Henley's shot on the last, out of that fairway bunker to a back left flag, and he's missed it long left where it looked like there's only about 12 feet to the edge of the green.
Yeah.
It's a pretty small margin. Not that he was aiming there, but there seems to be a lot of shots that go really close. Is it just the match play element where you kind of, the guy hits it in the rough and he hits an average chip and they just pick it up and move on, so you don't really pay too much attention? I don't know.
I think it is. I think it's a bit of match play because you saw probably more short sighting, I reckon, than you'd normally see on a normal PGA Tour event. We also are looking at the best 24, basically the best 24 players in the world, or 50 players in the world. And I think I read somewhere that, like, Luke Donald, from his pairings point of view, he would put someone who maybe was a little bit more conservative and safe and made a heap of, I guess a solid no bogeys, not many birdies, with someone that made a lot of birdies. So they'd have the one guy hit, I guess, middle of the green and, like almost secure the par, and then the other guy go for it, whether that actually happened or not. But yeah, it was amazing how many shots just went stiff. But I wonder whether, like you do that in match play, stroke play, and you make a double bogey or a triple bogey, that's on your card for 72 holes. Whereas you do it in match play, you lose the hole and you're like, oh well. Because I saw someone won a hole with a bogey today, didn't they? Or no, there was a whole half in bogeys at least.
I saw a putt for a bogey for the half at least, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's when you kind of go, oh well. In stroke play that's with you for the whole round, but if you've halved it, it's like, oh, wipe that off.
An interesting thought that just came up there was one of the par threes. It might have been one of the earlier holes, potentially the third or whatever that one was, but it was like a front right flag, and the commentator said, "Oh, this doesn't suit him." It may have been Cam Young because he hits draws or something like that. Oh, this flag doesn't suit him, and he hit it to like 3 feet. He just hit a straight one straight at the flag to 3 feet, and it really pissed me off that he said it in the first place. But 2, he didn't go, oh, I was wrong. He just sort of just left it. And that sticks with the viewer who goes, and it's kind of like that Decade thing. Like, you can hit a draw into any target, you can hit a fade into any target. But because they saw the front right flag, they assumed that the best way to get there was by hitting a big, high, loopy fade to get it
Yeah.
there. And the guys hit it to 3 feet. Just an interesting point.
Yeah, funny enough, I think they said that about Bob McIntyre on no, maybe, what's the par 3, not 17, maybe 14? And they hit right-hand flag, and they're like, oh, this will suit the left-hander. I
Yeah.
was thinking, why would it suit a left-hander? Yeah, it was weird. If anything, I think it would probably suit a right-hander if you're going to get fussy about it. But anyway, yeah, I don't know, the whole strategy thing. You can see why clubs and tour groups and stuff try and do those sort of Ryder Cup formats, because it just looks fun.
Yeah, it does. It really does. The other thing I've got down here is I've just written a note: leaving putts short. I don't know how to quite frame this, but does your strategy change with putting speed in match play? I don't think it should, because the harder you hit it, the effective size of the hole gets smaller. But the amount of putts that are sort of just short, and it frustrates me when the commentators, oh no, you can't leave it short, or like you can.
Yeah.
It's still, the next one's good, better than hitting it 4 feet past and having to putt it. There seem to be a lot of putts left short. Where do you stand on that? Would you hit them a little harder in match play, knowing that the score doesn't stick on your card for 72 holes, like being short-sighted?
I don't think so, because I think you're still trying to, hit it at good holding speed. That one of Morikawa, maybe on 15 today, like it was half a roll short, right? The jaws. I can see how frustrating that would be. But equally, you get the one that you hit, like Bob McIntyre when he three-putted, like he hit that too hard, so it hits the lip and spits it out. So, yeah. I mean, statistically speaking, if you're a follower of Scott Fawcett, you'd know, or you'd believe or follow his thinking that the best putters in the world, the best putters in the world leave more putts short from long range, and that hole you have to be up to be in's a bit of a myth, because as you say, the speed changes the relative hole size. It'd be interesting to see, like today, there'd be so many players reviewing the day in their head, going, "Oh, if only," and like we all do after we play.
Yeah.
Where do you
Like
stand in it?
Henley's putt. I tend to like to die my putts in anyway. I don't like having that 3 or 4 footer coming back, so I tend to just try and drop them in just over the edge. So I don't think I would change that. And we might touch on this point later on, because we'll talk about the Charles Tour, because Josh Geary had a significant putt on the 18th yesterday. But yeah, I don't think my strategy would change. If I left it short, I left it short, and I'd take the 2-inch or 1 foot. Thanks, I'll pick that up. It's good.
Yeah. I think the thing with that Russell Henley one is the demons that are on in my head on any given 8-foot putt to win a match against a mate versus millions of people watching, hundreds of thousands there live. Imagine the noise in his head. Like, it'd be hard to just say, "Oh yeah, I would have hit that to the hole," because that would be.
It's impossible to know what's going on in his head, but he potentially went, "I've got a heap of adrenaline here.
Yeah.
I know that's going to cause me to hit harder, so respond to that by hitting it a little softer," and it just came off a touch too soft. Like, he's probably made a really good adjustment for what he was feeling and what he knows would potentially happen. And it just happened to just be short.
Good thing Lowry holed his.
Yeah.
I think they needed that, just to get the half secured. What were you going to say about Russell Henley?
No, nothing. Was I going to say something about it?
I'm sure before you started by saying Russell Henley, but then I asked you what you thought about the speed thing, and you changed your tack.
Oh, no, yeah, the 18th. Like, it's impossible to know what was going through his head. But he was, I don't know, the putt would have only been about 12 feet or so. It didn't looked inside 15 feet, which typically you would try not to leave too far short.
Yeah, those ones you probably don't.
Not likely to hit it too far past either, but it's just impossible to know what's going on.
2 things I loved about it is I jumped the fence last night and played a few holes, because I loved watching the Ryder Cup, and I loved watching the last 2 Charles Tours events at Mount Maunganui and Tauranga. So that's the cool thing about golf is when it inspires you, or if you watch it and it inspires you, you can go and take action. Like I watch the All Blacks, but I don't want to go and play rugby. Whereas I can go and play a few holes and I guess play my version. So I think hopefully that's a cool flow on. And then I guess watching the Charles Tour events was pretty cool. And I guess if we just flip to that now, Josh Geary, 29 under par for 4 rounds around Tauranga. And that's changed from a par 71, which the members played at, to a par 70 with a par 5 changing to a par 4. That is some absolutely phenomenal golf. I know it's not the hardest golf course in the world, but he won by 13. So at 29 under, a tournament record. I mean, the tournament's been going for probably 20 years. So, shit, that was impressive. And that inspired me to go, oh, that's cool. I want to jump on and have a hit and see if I can shoot 29 under. No, I didn't, Scott.
Yeah, so the last couple of weeks we've had the Mount Open and the Tauranga Open, and about a month out I decided that I'd make a little documentary on following a few of the players. So I picked 6 players and had an interview with them a month out and sort of followed them along leading up to the tournaments, and then spent quite a bit of time out on the course videoing them to put a little documentary together. And fortunately for me, one of the players was Josh Geary. So I got to see him hit a lot of shots and actually recorded quite a bit of it over the last 2 weeks, which was cool. And I said to you sort of during the week, I haven't actually watched a lot of golf as just an observer. I play with other golfers, but often I'm worried about my own game, and I see them hit the ball, but I'm not really sort of noticing how they're behaving or their language too much as sort of as an observer. It was really interesting to see, and yeah, it was pretty impressive. But after the first round, where he shot 8 under the first round, was at 62. He said he didn't hit it that well, and I've heard that a few times from players who have good rounds. I didn't hit it well, but I recorded probably 12 or 13 holes of him, and none of them sounded that great. And he didn't actually hit it that well. And he probably has quite high standards, but there was nothing that was really pure out of the middle and flush. But he does such a good job of just keeping the ball in play. If I don't hit the ball well, there'll be some on the race course, and there'll be some lost up trees, and it'll be 3 fairways over. That's my version of not hitting it well. But his version of not hitting it well is still keeping it in play and never shooting himself out of a hole or out of a tournament. I think he only made 2 bogeys all week. And it was really impressive to see a player who didn't have everything that day, but still get his ball around the golf course.
Yeah, one thing I think is impressive as well with that is that the second hole at Tauranga, for those that aren't familiar, most of the players in the field, especially given the wind, that number 2 played downwind for most of the week. Most players can comfortably get it on with driver, some even 3-wood, par 4, and double tier green with instead of a front to back tier, a right to left tier. The gap between the trees to get on the green's about 35 metres. And with data now, like players would know how often they can hit it between that 35 metre window, and I suspect for most of those players it's probably around about 40%. And I think it was you telling me that Josh went, oh, look, to a right pin, I'm willing to take that risk on because if I hit it in the trees, I can feel like I can still manage par, but to a left pin or a back left pin maybe. And so I think in the second or third round, he hit 6-iron off the tee and a wedge onto the green. And I stood on the back of that green and watched a few. I didn't see many birdies. I didn't see anyone lay up, and I didn't see many birdies, and I saw a heap of bogeys. So, just that clarity and giving it some thought and not just saying, 280 metre par 4, I'll hit driver. Because he did hit driver sometimes, but then other times, obviously, they hit the 6-iron.
And he had a deep understanding of his game, so I asked him about that. So I was standing behind the green, and the group in front were on the green, so they were on the tee waiting. And 2 of them hit from the tee, and then they walked off. And I thought, I must have missed Josh. He must have laid up, which I thought was quite surprising, and asked him about it. He said the wind was off the left with a tuck left flag, and he said, that wind direction didn't suit me for the shot that I wanted to hit, and if the flag was on the right, I would have been willing to take it on, but I sort of just thought the right player is this, and this at this stage he probably had a 3 or 4 shot lead in the second round. He said the best thing about that was actually sticking to that decision, because quite comfortable around the golf course, he knows he's going to make plenty of birdies, but he was still happy to go, no, this is the right decision. I'm not just going to hit driver for the sake of it, which I think a lot of players get up there and they go, oh, I'm not going to win the tournament, or I'm 3 or 4 shots inside the cut line, it's fine. Rather than actually, no, this is my plan, this is the best way to play the hole, which I've already determined, and they sort of go away from that.
And also, what are the boys going to say if I lay up? Like you get that, you get the sort of ego hit or a bit of abuse. But obviously, he's the co-martyr of the Charles Tour, so no one's going to give him any shit. So he probably can get away with it. But there is that ego piece as well, I think, which plays a part. The other thing, mate, with that golf course, and I'll take Josh out of it. If you play it as a par 71, so 17 is a par 5, the majority of those players in the field, because it's so short, can get to 9 of those greens in under regulation. All things, it's probably a bit of a stretch, because for a couple of them you probably need some wind assistance. But if you then thought, what would 29 under is remarkable. But I wonder if you had, and I don't think the best players in the world would, it's hard to go much lower than that. But the next was sort of 15 under. No, might have been 16 under. I wonder what par really is for those guys that can hit it that far. And the conditions were relatively benign most of the week. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's a great question. I had this conversation as well before, but the first 10 holes, there's 3 par 3s, but the other 7 you can get on in under regulation. But you also have the other side of that and going, 5 of those you have either out of bounds or penalty area right on your backside on the left-hand side. So equally, you can just pull a couple or just get a couple of toe strikes and you're hitting either 3 off the tee or sort of struggling to make your bogey. So that can happen too. But if you're driving the ball well, there is an opportunity to get under regulation on 7 of those first 10 holes. And kind of play them as really long par 3s if you have some wind assistance. Sort of really long par 3s where it might be a par 3.5 for 7 of those holes. Yeah.
And you alluded to it at the start. Josh had a pretty impressive last round, like 5 shot lead going into the last round. Was he 5 ahead going into the last round? Tell me your thoughts. Like what are you thinking of? I'm not sure if you've been 5 ahead going into the last round. I certainly haven't, but I'd imagine it would be pretty easy to play quite defensively on a course like that where you can, like Josh could probably shoot 68 left-handed. What do you reckon his strategy was, or even knowing what he did?
Yeah, so I caught up with him quite late. It was on the 15th, so there were 5 other players I was following in the field, and I was kind of watching them, knowing Josh had a nice lead, and I thought I'd follow him for the last couple of holes. But when I joined him on 15, almost holed his approach shot, made birdie, and then hold a really nice putt on 16. And then he needed a birdie one of the last 2 for 59. I asked him about it afterwards, and he said it was on 14 where he got up and down for par, and he realised that there was an opportunity, and it was nice to have that because he was so far ahead. There was no danger of losing the tournament, but it kind of allowed him to refocus and sort of stay in the moment and go, okay, I can still chase 59 and that'd also be 30 under. He said he became aware of that on about 14 and gave himself a pretty good opportunity to do that. And circling back to what we talked about with the putting, he hit it to a back right flag on 18 and he said he kind of wished he hit a 50 degree rather than his sand wedge and tried to take a little bit of the spin off to get it all the way back to the flag because he kind of hit a sand wedge as soon as he hit it. He knew it was landing sort of 15 feet short and it just spun all the way back. So he probably had a close to 45, 50 footer for 59 on the last. but he said he was well aware of what it was. He took a little bit extra time reading it, and he said, whatever you do, just make sure this gets past the hole. Don't be the guy that leaves it in the jaws in front of all these people. He said, I was prepared to four-putt it for the opportunity to get it to the hole and give myself an opportunity to sort of ram one in the back of the hole.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, eh? But I think it's impressive to have a five-shot lead.
Like a pretty good putt too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be keen to see I assume you got that on your footage.
Yeah.
But pretty impressive, I think, to have a five-shot lead and go out and put the hammer down and shoot 10 under in the last round.
Yeah, shoot 60 when you've got a five-shot lead, when you know that 68 would have done it anyway.
Yeah.
Or it turned out even par would have done it.
Yeah. Did you know? I think there's been 3 59s in Charles Tours at Tauranga Golf Club. That would have been the first one teeing off the first hole to do it.
Wow.
The other three, no, neither did I. David Mangan, who's Golf New Zealand Tournament and Championships director or manager, I'm not sure what his title is, probably should know that. He told me that if he gets it, he'll be the first one to do it off the first tee. So next time you play at Tauranga and you think you've drawn the short straw because you're playing off 11, it actually could be your chance to shoot 59, brother.
It's nice to hear that, because I often say to players, I prefer to tee off 11 because it kind of gives me 8 holes to hang in there and figure out what's going on, and then I go, all right, I've got an idea of how I'm rolling the ball or how I'm striking it, where my misses going today on the gettable holes, which I feel like a 1 to 10.
Yeah, because like you said before, 1 to 10. I remember Josh Geary years ago, because I mean, is that the 6th time he's won that event? Is it 6 that he's won?
I think it's 6. Yeah, I think it was 6. Yeah.
And that's a cool thing. Like Caris have sponsored that every year since day one. It's the longest running. It's the longest running Charles Tour event in the country, and we've had one sponsor the whole time. So massive shout out to Caris, because obviously with tournaments they can't go ahead without some pretty cool people. Sir Paul and Lady Cheryl Adams and their son Scott Adams. That's been massive. And cool that a local lad and Josh Geary won it. Forgot where I was going with that. Scott, what was I saying? He won 6 times.
I'm talking about 10 off 11.
10 off 11. Oh, yes. Sorry.
Years ago.
I remember years ago Josh said, he goes, I try and be 10 under through 10 and then just hang on for grim death. So just go for it on those first 10 holes and then just hang on. Because the back 9 is it's not long, but it's longer. And after you've played all these drivable par 4s, all of a sudden, when you've got a wedge in your hand for your second, it feels like you're playing the longest course on the planet. But there's OB left the whole way, pretty much coming home. So, yeah.
Right,
So that, yeah. What's that?
There's OB left and right for some of us.
Yeah. Bloody 17th hole.
So there were 2 events. Young Cooper Moore won at the Mount, his first Charles Tour victory. You've had a little bit to do with Cooper. It's pretty cool for him to get his name on the board against a pretty tough field. So Josh Geary was in that leading after round 1, maybe midway through round 2. Sam Jones was right in the mix before he had a disaster early in the last round. But that was pretty cool for Cooper to get his name on the board there. Yeah,
really cool. And he played with Sam for 3 of those rounds too. And yeah, think about that. Sam Jones, DP World Tour player last year, Challenge Tour, or what do they call it now? Hotel Planner Tour this year. So for Cooper to be able to be with him and playing with him and see firsthand and ask him a couple of questions. Cooper's a gun. He's only just turned 17. Won the Aussie Junior, won the Asia Pacific Junior up in Hong Kong earlier in the year. He played in the Asian Amateur last year in Japan, came top 10 in that, which, you know, like those guys are pretty bloody good when you get to the top players in Asia. But a really well organised young man. Like, he does everything really well. He's diligent. He's a good learner. Strikes the ball beautifully. Josh Geary reckons he's the best he's seen out of New Zealand in sort of 20 years. So that's pretty nice. And yeah, Sam equally is impressed with his game. He's off to the Eisenhower Trophy next week in Singapore, which will be awesome for him, joining Zach Swanwick and Robbie Turnbull with the New Zealand team. Uh, One of the cool things, I was watching, obviously, the Ryder Cup this morning, and the gap between the amateur golf now and professional golf is so small with the top amateurs. Ludwig Arberg, I mean, he played Ryder Cup last time in 2023. He played in the Eisenhower Trophy as an amateur in 2022. Like, he played when we were in France. Victor Hovland and Højgaard and Morikawa, they played the year that Dan Hillier, Denzel Idemir, and Kerry Mountcastle played. John Rahm and Scotty Scheffler played before that. So you look through those teams. I should do it, and I'll let you know. But I suspect a little bit harder for the Americans. I know Bryson played a little bit harder because you only get 3 players to choose from every 2 years. But it is the Eisenhower Trophy is literally a who's who of golf. Josh Geary played 2 for New Zealand, which is no mean feat because it's, as I said, it's biennial event. But yeah, going back to Cooper, he's got that next week. So they're playing the Mount and Tauranga quite nice. Like, gets the win at the Mount. I think he finished 5th at Tauranga maybe. So not, no mean feat for a 17-year-old kid, but quite nice that he still has that little bit of edge to go, some guy just beat me by 14. So he doesn't go all to the Eisenhower, all Billy Big Bananas. He's still got that bit of edge, which Cooper wouldn't anyway, to be honest. Did you watch much of him?
He was in one of the groups of the players I was watching, I think, at the Mount. So I saw a little bit of him. I do feel quite good, though, because I had a mate turn up on the Thursday morning of the Mount Open and sort of said who to look out for. He's a member at the Mount, doesn't really know many of the players, kind of only Josh and Sam. And I just said one of the players, there was a short list, and one of them I said, just keep your eye on Cooper as well. Pretty good name for the future, and he obviously ended up winning it. I didn't pick him to win it, but I said keep your eye on Cooper, and he saw me at the end of the week. He goes, "Oh, that's the guy you told me to keep an eye on." So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, nice. I think one of the cool things about watching Cooper, and Josh alluded to this, and you mentioned it earlier, he said he didn't play his best last week, which we all kind of, that freaks you out a bit to go 29 under. But like Tauranga is a golf course where you can get away with stuff, and I'm certainly not saying that Josh did. But watching Cooper, he's middle of pretty much every fairway. He's on the smart side of pretty much every flag. So you could almost, I think, you can sometimes watch a player, and I'm not saying that, again, I'm not saying this was Josh, but you could sometimes watch a player shoot 64 at a course like Tauranga and go, oh, yeah, well done, but you would have been found out on a championship test of golf because you hit it on the next fairway on a championship course and you're chipping out sideways, not hitting a wedge over the trees. But Cooper doesn't do that. So Cooper, you could almost pick his game up and transplant it. And I had this conversation with a few people. Kazuma, when he comes up, will often go and play Kinloch because he loves the challenge of Kinloch. And we played one day down there in a breezy conditions off the black tees, and he's not very long. Well, certainly by tour standards, he hits it past me, which I'm not very long, so. But, it's not like he's a muppet. But he shot 66. We went down there, breezy conditions. I had probably 83. I think he was giving me 12 shots, so he won. But what I'd say to people is if I picked up that 83, if I could somehow put that into AI and say, what would I have shot at Tauranga hitting it like that? I reckon I would have shot probably 72. So let's say 11 shots better. There's no way he's going to be 66. He's not going to be 11 shots better. He may have shot 64. In fact, sometimes you can play worse. And so that's where those championship courses, I think, become levelers. And then probably that's how Cooper would reflect on his game. It would be around his own standards of what he's trying to achieve rather than necessarily what a score is or how the course presented. And I think, I'm not sure if you noticed that, but he doesn't miss too many shots, eh?
Nah, that was pretty impressive to watch. Yeah, and like I said, he was in the middle of most fairways, and I watched a little bit of Jaden Ford the first day, so he shot 7 under at Tauranga, and he was in a few left and right fairways, and as they say, you can get away with it. And it may have been a slightly off day for him, but he got away with it and managed to still score pretty well. But maybe that was why he didn't find himself at the top of the leaderboard come the end of the week, because it's pretty tough to do that for 4 rounds.
Yeah, I think he was third in his defence. Jaden. Yeah. You did say at the start of this chat that you had a surprise for me, which I'm a little bit nervous about, but I feel like now's the time for the surprise.
All right. Have you ever seen the trend of blind ranking something?
No.
Okay, so I am going to give you 5 players. I think
Yes.
5. I've got a bigger list here. That, how am I going to frame it? That if you turned up at your home course
Oh.
to play around with, would be your top 5. So you got to rank them in order
Yeah.
of best to worst players to play with, famous golfers to play with.
Yes.
So I'm going to give you the names in a random order, and you have to list them 1 to 5. But it's blind ranking, so you don't know who's coming next.
Oh, right. Okay, that's good. I like it. Right. I think I like it.
So your first player, the first I'm going to give you is Alex Noren.
Hold on. Have you done this yourself?
Have I done what?
Oh, I'd like to know at the end of it. I'd like to know what your actual what your rankings would be for this group. You can't do it because it's blind. But so I didn't mean that. But I more meant.
They're not. Oh, these.
No,
these
but
ranked.
at the end, I would like to know your rankings. Right. Sorry. Who was the first one?
Okay. So.
I didn't hear who you said.
These are targeted for you, and who I think might be tough decisions for you potentially.
Right.
So the first player is Alex Noren. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1.
1.
Yes, because do you know what? Before the advent of social media, Alex Noren used to write a blog, and I would read his blog. The people who I used to coach of that era would know that I was a massive Alex Noren fan. You may have even been aware of that.
No, it's just why he's on the list, Jay.
Yeah. So he's number 1.
Okay.
Yeah, Alex Noren. I fucking love him.
All right, and this is the player in their prime as well, by the way. So
okay. So Tiger Woods is next.
Your next player is Tommy Fleetwood.
I'm gonna say 3 because again I love him. Yeah, 3.
Okay. Next player is Bryson DeChambeau.
5. Maybe 6.
Your next player is Ludwig Oberg.
Oh, this is good. Now I'm nervous. I want to say 2, but because I've seen him play as a kid, well, not as a kid. I saw him play in Paris, and I think Sweden may have won that year, or they might have lost by a shot. In fact, here's a fun fact for you. I think Sweden lost by a shot in the Eisenhower, and if you remember, the golf course was Golf National in France, and Lydia, where she won Olympic gold, and the 18th green and the 15th green are quite close to each other, but they're separated by water. One of the Swedish players, in one of the earlier rounds, took dead aim at the 15th green while he was playing 18, thinking, I don't know what he was doing, brain explosion, hit it to the wrong green, made 6, they lost by 1. They're quite a long way apart. If you have a look on Google, it's a miss. But so I'm going to put Ludwig at 2.
Okay. And your last player is the legendary Seve Ballesteros.
Ah, gutting.
At number 4.
Number 4. He is such a dick.
Feels like a mistake, Jay.
That feels like a setup.
Mistake.
Feels like a setup. My dog was named Seve, you know that.
I know.
Oh,
yeah,
Seve is my favourite.
Welcome to Blind Rankings.
That is cool.
Thanks for playing.
Do you know the only difference would probably be Seve would go to 1, and everyone else would shift down 1.
Yeah, I feel like you've done pretty well there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would your well, so do I get to do this to you next week?
Yeah, so you can come up with a sort of surprise game next week.
Yeah, nice.
So you
I'm
can
going to do
this
that.
if you like.
Yes.
All right.
But honestly, I wonder if it's still on the internet, Alex Noren. He used to write this
His
blog and vlogs. He'd do video things.
I loved his videos were so good.
Yeah, him and Nicholas Lemke.
Yeah, yeah.
I followed him. I went to the Irish Open a few weeks ago with Kazuma, and I saw Nicholas Lemke, and I was like, oh, I want to follow him, man. He's a legend. I remember him from the Alex Noren videos.
Yeah.
So I followed him for a couple of holes, which is pretty cool. But yeah, before his
John's
time,
over
because yeah, there was no social media in those days. I don't think.
Yeah.
I think we're
Yeah,
talking
they
early
were gone absolutely
2000s.
viral.
Yeah. Yeah. Too good.
Cool. So my
Well, that was good,
notes.
Scott.
It was. Right.
Shall we end it there?
Reconvene another time.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Cool.
And I'll do the blind
Right.
test on you.
Let's do it.
Cheers, brother.
See ya.